Hi everyone, and welcome back to Carols of Wisdom for my first No Buy year. Today's video is going to be about the loneliness epidemic, the hole in our hearts, and the Christmas spirit. So we've been watching some Christmas movies over here. The other day we watched The Grinch, and it struck me that there are a lot of parallels to the Grinch's attitude and how he feels and the journey that he goes on throughout the movie and the loneliness epidemic in our culture at large. So here we are in today's video discussing these topics through the lens of the Christmas spirit, perhaps. So in some ways, the Christmas season of festivity might put a band-aid on the loneliness epidemic at large, and in other ways it might make it worse for some people. So the festive nature and connection that a lot of people are experiencing, the family time, can also make it harder for people that maybe don't have family accessible or don't have that wealth of connection in their lives or are dealing with some kind of animosity or tension during this time. And the Grinch started his story arc thinking that it was the stuff that was responsible for the positive things about the Christmas season. And so he goes and he takes all the stuff that the Who's have and thinks that that'll ruin their celebration and make them cry, and he wants to hear that sound, the beautiful sound of them being sad and upset, because he's sad and upset, right? He's lonely, he's a mean one, and he thinks that by bringing others down to his level of misery, it will make him feel better. And, you know, we read the book too, so there's a little bit of that as well. And it doesn't work. You know, they're still happy, they still have their connection, and he's still left on the outside, even though he has all their stuff now. He took it all away. And I guess that's kind of a parallel for how if we try to pursue the hole in our hearts, the loneliness that we might be feeling, or the tension or the stress or any of that stuff, if we try to fill it with stuff, if we try to put the band-aid on through wanting things, buying things, seeking more things to bring into our lives, it's not going to work ultimately. And I don't know that it'll make us feel more like an outsider, partly because everybody seems to be doing this to some degree. So, you know, in some ways, the pursuit of stuff can feel like it's bringing us closer to others or making us do the same things that they do. And in some ways, maybe that's not reflective in the Grinch's journey, since he took the stuff away from everybody else in the story, and therefore he's the one with it, and they're the ones without it, and they're the ones connected and happy, and he's the one still alone with a bunch of stuff. But anyway, whether the parallel is perfect for our human society or not is not necessarily what's important for this video. The point here is that when we seek to solve these problems with things, with material objects, with stuff, it often falls short. And it can be hard to find the way in to what we really need. And society doesn't make it any easier for us. I keep seeing this content online by, again, you know, more researched and qualified and established presences on YouTube than mine. I think I saw a recent video from The Financial Diet about convenience culture and how it's kind of predatory in ways because, again, it's the big companies that profit the most and the smaller companies that struggle the most with systems like these to keep up, to offer competitive services, because as a consumer, we can't always afford to choose the local option. We can't always justify not using the big companies because of our own financial situations and our own kind of stages in life and our life priorities. I myself experience this on an everyday basis or near everyday basis when we go grocery shopping, right? We live next to a Walmart, and it's just convenient for multiple reasons to get our groceries there, even if I would not necessarily choose to put my dollars and my votes for consumer society into that massive company. Same with big box retailers like Costco. We canceled our Costco membership this year, and then after reflection and budgeting and, you know, looking at our needs, we eventually re-signed up. And again, it hurts a little bit to support these massive companies, but at the same time, as a consumer, when we look at our own bottom lines, our own grocery budgets, our own, you know, how far we can stretch for these things, it is challenging to make these choices. And then for businesses, for small businesses as well, you know, these convenience culture practices can be very harmful. The gig economy and all that. Again, I highly recommend, if you're interested in this, you can watch their video. this is not, my channel here is not the channel of diving into presenting you the sources. It's a channel of reflecting on an individual's journey, trying to break up with consumerism, and likewise reflecting on these sources of information. And I invite you to do that with me. And anyway, going back to the trope of the holidays, you know, where the mean man is misguidedly trying to solve their loneliness or live their own lives as a mean person and not understanding the point of the festive season. You know, I guess Scrooge is another one, Ebenezer Scrooge in The Christmas Carol. Is that right? The Christmas Carol by Dickens. And, you know, he has the ghosts of Christmas show him the impacts of his actions and all that. It's not just a Grinch trope is what I'm trying to say. It's maybe a little simplistically presented in all of these holiday tropes that the mean person can just have a change of heart and realize, and oh, it's the connection, let me bring all your stuff back and maybe you can accept me and solve my problem of loneliness, right? I do think it helps if you're not a mean person and, you know, Scrooge coming through the last moment and realizing that he could start being nicer and then people that work for him will have a more positive life experience, you know, like it's all great, but like, I guess it is using the Christmas festive season as kind of like a window in where it's more likely for people to receive that in a positive way rather than, hey, like, you've been treating me like crap for 20 years, like, I'm not gonna let you into my Christmas now. And I know I'm oversimplifying it too, so you can, if you want to come for me in the comments, you can do so. You can share how I've radically missed the point of all of these narratives. But I guess on a personal level, you know, bringing it back to our own experience, hopefully none of us are experiencing a total disconnect during the holiday season. I am sorry if you are. I'm sorry if this is a moment of high tension, a season of high stress. I have had seasons where I was much more alone over the holiday period, you know, had New Year's by myself and stuff like that. So I know what that feels like. It's not great. And I do feel lucky that I'm in a position this year and for the foreseeable future where I will have family around and I will have kind of a built-in purpose for this time of year and the rest of the year, honestly. Once you become a parent, there's a built-in purpose until everybody's an independent adult. But anyway, on a personal level, gifts and stuff cannot be a substitute for time and attention and connection. And, you know, this is not, I made a comment in a video during Black Friday week about how if we're going to experience FOMO, maybe we should lean into the FOMO of human connection, right? So sometimes we can feel the fear of missing out if we get invited to something and we don't want to say no because of FOMO. Maybe we could act on that one and experience the human connection. And I want to be clear that I'm not talking about parties that are not going to fill your cup with social interaction, right? Like I'm talking about interactions that are a good fit for you, right? Like don't go to the parties if everyone's drinking and you don't drink or you don't want to be around that. Don't go to hang out with people that drain your energy or, you know, if you're an extreme introvert or something like that. I would consider myself pretty introverted as well, actually. But I do find that if I don't experience human interaction on a regular basis, I will still feel worse internally somehow. And, you know, if I experience too much, yes, I will also feel drained and I will need to recharge and I will start to get less personable, you know, like I'll kind of shut down a little bit. But I guess it surprises me how much I do benefit from regular contact. And it might not be every day, but it certainly is every week. Right? Like if I don't leave my house for a whole week straight, I'm going to feel the, what is it, cabin fever and kind of the lack of perspective, I guess. And I think that was kind of part of my problem earlier this year and in years past during periods of time for whatever reason where I wasn't as involved in society. And, you know, 2020 was a year where a lot of us weren't involved as much as we usually are and felt the ill effects. And I was surprised to notice that it didn't take as long as I thought to become dissatisfied with not experiencing connection with people outside of my family. So that's just my personal experience. Maybe everybody's, you know, I know everybody out there is different and experiences things differently. But the point of this chat today is to convey that no matter what we see in the marketing and the social media trends, gifts are not an adequate substitute. Stuff is not a substitute for time and attention and connection. I would argue actually that time and attention and connection can be a substitute for the gifts. It can work the other way around. So if we need to lean into that and, you know, if we need to radically lean into that by trying to remove the gifts even, that might be an interesting experiment to say, hey, let's not do gifts this year, but let's try to find a way to spend more time together and give each other more quality attention. But I do think part of it is that we are forgetting, or that we're finding it harder to give that quality attention and to be present in that way. And I don't know if it's just the cell phone, smartphone epidemic or whatever, and social media being there, and social media even giving that illusion of being connected when we're actually not, right? So having a lot of followers on a social media account does not mean you have a lot of friends in real life. In fact, it can be the opposite, because you're spending too much of your time pursuing that online community when you could be letting your real life relationships languish a little bit. Social media is not a substitute for real social connection. It was something as well that Robert Lustig said in The Hacking of the American Mind, where social connection online is not as good as face-to-face connection. So for introverts and extroverts alike, I think there is an importance to face-to-face human connection. Maybe that's the Grinch's problem, is he's living in his snow cave on a mountain, and the Who's are all in Whoville, and he just needs to move closer to the center of things and see people more often. Maybe then he would have some empathy and connection within his community. And I guess when I speak about that and think about it, it does bring another perspective to the career of influencing and how online that is. And I know there are other online careers, but I do think that influencing is a very public one. You know, it's very visible. All the work you do is kind of front-facing, public-facing, and it is becoming a more common career these days, even as a side hustle. And it is a very online-driven, you know, like, all of your work is online. In some cases, it might make you look strange to the public in real life, especially if you're one of those creators that does social trends, you know, does the dances, does the vlogging in public, etc. So in some ways, influencing can actually alienate you from real life people. And I don't know, I guess I'm starting to see how being focused on this online community, on communicating online, can be detrimental for real life social health. And maybe that's part of why we're experiencing this loneliness epidemic, is that there is so much content online, there's so much media online, there's so much that's shared online, that we can feel like we're connecting with somebody, even when we're just watching a virtual version of that person, you know, not even in real time, an edited version of that person as well. You don't know what that person really talks like. You don't know how many pauses they take to think. You don't know how many times they've cut out like and you know and so and, even though there's still some of those in the videos. Not speaking about anybody in particular here. Are we all holiday Scrooges? Have I become more of a Scrooge this year because I'm spending some of my time each day in December towards the creation of online content? And if that's not meta, as I'm in the middle of a Vlogmas series speaking to you online, I don't know what is. Anyway, on that note, I'm gonna wrap up today's chat. Let me know your thoughts on whether you've ever tried to buy away the loneliness or fill that hole in your souls, that void, through the purchase of stuff, through searching for things to want, through fantasizing about what these things might bring to your life. I would love to hear all your stories and experiences in the comments below. Bye for now, and I'll see you tomorrow.